Hello everybody, I'm up to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. I'm joined by some familiar faces for the fans' voice this week. We're going to be looking back at the Villa game, Jack Grealish's antics, and of course looking forward to this Manchester United game, where I feel like we've got a good chance, lads. How are we feeling going into this fixture tonight?
Mixed really. I mean, last couple of seasons we've beat Man United at home, but their away records have been pretty good. Particularly being Everton and Southampton. So, I feel confident going into it. But with Man United under Ole Gunnar Solsjkaer, you never know what team's going to turn up. So, but it should be a good game though, regardless.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry, go on, mate.
I was going to say, I think that's the thing with Ole. It's always his job's on the line, and when he has to turn up, he turns up. So I'm slightly worried after his kind of Fred mishap midweek against PSG that this is the game where he might finally show up and kind of put off those doubters for another month or two or week or two. But you can never be quite sure. We're in really good form, though, and I guess you'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it does seem like every time people start to doubt Ole, every single time Man United have a bad result, they seem to bounce back. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen today. But if you're just looking at it in terms of how this season's going, if you're just looking at it from a West Ham point of view, it is hard not to be confident going into this one, looking both at our run of form recently and how we've played against Man United in the past. I think Bill just touched on it. We've beaten them the last 2 years at home as well. It is pretty difficult not to be confident going into this one.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. There's that element in there of Ole. He needs to win to sort of save his job, and he's got Leipzig as well on Wednesday. That he needs to get a result in that. So maybe he'll tail off against West Ham. I don't know. United do seem to turn up when they need to, and to be fair to them in the Premier League, they have got 2 back-to-back wins, so they are in decent form. Let's talk about the Aston Villa game, lads, because for me, I'm not quite sure we deserved all 3 points, but I'll take it. We're 5th in the league. How are you feeling about that?
I mean, probably the worst performance of the season for me since the Newcastle game. But I think that's almost testament to how well this season's going. The fact that we're managing to grind out wins whilst playing badly. And that's almost a sign of a good team. It sounds stupid, but the fact that we're managing to grind out these results in the last 3 games, scrappy wins against Fulham and Sheffield United, and an even scrappier win against Villa last week, I think that just goes to show that we have actually got a very strong squad this year, and who knows what could happen if we actually start playing well. But yeah, the Villa game, I don't think we deserve 3 points out of it at all. We obviously started both halves quite strongly, but then other than that, didn't really create much. We'll probably come on to it, but I thought the refereeing was absolutely atrocious. Yeah. It was just for normally, people complain about referees a lot, and I'm kind of like, you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt. You're always going to get decisions that don't go your way. But up until that VAR call at the end, it did feel like literally every single decision went against us. Every single time their player hit, or one of their players hit the floor, they got the decision. I think for their first goal, I don't know if people have seen it, but it was an absolute blatant foul on Masuaku in the build-up down the other end. Just got body charged, I think. And then Grealish went out the other end and scored. So I think overall, we didn't deserve the 3 points, but I do think that it was a horrific refereeing performance. So I would have felt quite hard done by if we didn't at least take something from it.
It was awful, mate. Honestly, I genuinely was.
It was dreadful, wasn't it?
I was shocked. Well, the refereeing performance, obviously, and his inability to kind of control that game, but actually Villa's constant looking for the foul. Even I think there's a clip of Mings as well trying to win a foul. He was all over one of our players. I think it was Allaire, actually. And it was so frustrating. I mean, Jack Grealish, for me, is a fantastic football player, brilliant in the league this season. And in fairness, in the football side of things, West Ham really struggled to deal with him. But the diving element of it is, I didn't realise how bad it was. I knew there was a bit sort of sketchy, but when you see it against your team, you realise how often he does it and how frustrating it is.
Yeah. The difference is with Jack Grealish is, I guess, maybe there's an argument, for example, for the Salah one where he went down in the box. Like maybe, okay, you kind of have to dive in that situation if you want to win a penalty. But the distinguishing factor with the Jack Grealish dives it was everywhere. It was in their own half. It was on the halfway line. Anytime he tried to go past a defender and he didn't get the ball, he'd just go down. And it was shocking. I was watching that almost in disbelief. I think if he's worried about his reputation, like that is one thing that could really make people think that, come the end of his career, that he is not one of the best Villa players ever, because, you can see his quality on the ball. It was a great goal as well, but the diving was insane.
Bill, what are your thoughts on Jack Grealish, mate?
Well, exactly what you guys said. He's a very talented player, and being an Englishman, I really want him to be certainly in the squad and possibly even the starting 11 at the Euros next year. And it's a shame that obviously this diving and this theatrics is taken away from his football ability. So I just hope it gets out of him, really. Even players like Cristiano Ronaldo, Didier Drogba, they dived early on in their careers in England, and eventually they phased it out. So hopefully that does the same with him. And he gets fouled a lot, and you can see that with the way he goes down, but also his quick feet and his agility and so on. I just hope he focuses on that rather than just trying to win fouls, cheating essentially, isn't it? So, but yeah, no, very good player, and if he stays at Villa, they'll be doing well for the next few years, I reckon.
I was actually to be fair to Aston Villa, I was impressed. I knew they were going to be a threat. They did create a lot against West Ham, probably more than I thought, and we were under the cosh for long periods of time. The way we set up, we obviously pressed Villa very, very early, and that's how we ended up getting our goal. But as the half went on, West Ham, the press was a little bit all over the place. Antonio didn't look fit. Clearly, he wasn't fit because now he's out for a month. Thoughts on that, lads? Because not only the decision for Moyes to throw him back in early, which all of us have said that would have been risky, but the fact that he's going to now be out for a month, and now we are just relying on Sebastian Haller as our only striker.
Yeah, I was staggered that he started. With the injury he picked up and his, hamstring injury record, to just throw him in from the start, especially as we're playing Wales, where it's not like we're fighting relegation. We desperately need a win at the back end of the season. We've been playing well, and obviously Sebastian Haller scored at Sheffield United. We won the game, and we beat Fulham the game before. I don't think there was any. The risk to reward was non-existent in my opinion. So it was amazing he started, and it wasn't a surprise he went off. And during the first half, he just didn't look match fit at all, not even 50% in my opinion. So I think everyone needs to take blame for it. I think Antonio himself, I'm sure he said he was ready, but he clearly wasn't. Medical staff, Moyes himself, I think it's a collective. So it's be out for a few weeks now. And they need to learn from that. Especially as Mickey isn't getting any younger anymore, and you need to with the older sort of Man United generation, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, they were managed. Paul McGrath, for example, as well, obviously ex-Villa. So you just need Ledley King as well. You need to manage these players as they get older, especially those with injury records, and obviously, hopefully, we can learn from this.
Yeah, go on, mate.
Yeah, I was just going to say it was definitely Moyes' toughest call to make this season, because I think ever since we've moved to that 5 at the back, the team's pretty much picked itself every week. There's been the odd sort of player we could debate whether Benrahma should start instead of Fornals, but ultimately I think the team has pretty much picked itself. It was Antonio as the starting striker since he's been injured. Haller's got the nod up front. So this was definitely the biggest call he had to make. I said on this show last week that if Antonio was fully fit, I would go with him. But as we all found out, he just clearly wasn't. He didn't look anything like the sort of player we've become accustomed to seeing. He wasn't running the channels like he normally does. He wasn't chasing the long balls. His touch seemed very heavy, sort of like the old Antonio we were used to seeing a couple of years ago. And so he clearly did get that decision wrong. And it is really frustrating that he's now going to be out for who knows how long, whether or not it's going to be a few games. I don't think we know yet. But one thing I would give credit to Moyes for was that at half-time, he did realise that he'd got it wrong. He did realise clearly that Antonio wasn't fully fit, that the system wasn't working, and credit to him, something which we haven't really seen him do very much at all. He's obviously known as Dithering Dave by a lot of people. He did make those 2 changes at half-time. He did change formation, and it did work instantly. So that was really pleasing to see.
Yeah, that was the one thing with me as well. When he made that change, we were talking to Dennis and Charles on a watch along. So he has to make the change now. It's not working. And one of the worst things I saw as well, albeit Antonio was unfit, was the ball retention for the front three. The ball would go up, we would lose it immediately, and Villa would have the ball again.
Non-existent. It was just wave after wave, wasn't it?
And it's impossible. You've got a team like Villa pressing on you. You need to take the pressure off that West Ham defence, and we just couldn't do it. And it does kind of beg the question, like, okay, maybe if Antonio was fit, he would have done it better. But for me, Sebastian Haller over the past few games has showed his hold-up play is improving. And obviously he came on, and in that first goal, he's actually held the ball up, played it into midfield, and you see that immediate difference. So, yeah, you're right, Ollie. Fair play to Moyes, because I'm sure all of us have those criticisms of him when the subs are too late. But recently, he seems to be making the subs a little bit more timely.
Yeah, that's the double substitution of dreams, I think, from David Moyes. I never expected that, to put Benrahma and Haller on at half-time. When we were going in, we'd already scored a goal, and obviously it was 1-1 by that stage, but I couldn't believe my eyes. But to be honest, obviously the first substitution had to be made. There's an instance, the back end of the first half, where it's going out for a Villa goal kick, and Antonio is running to try and get the ball. And this Villa defender, I'm not sure who it is, it might have been a centre-back, it just literally charges past him. And I was there sitting and thinking, like, what on earth is going on? How has a judgment call been made that horrifically? Because he literally wasn't running. So, yeah, that was obviously a concern. I'm sure we'll go into the Benrahma substitution later on. Interesting how it was for Masuaku instead of Fornals. But yeah, I think they were great substitutions. And I remember sitting there thinking, all right, if we go on and lose this game 3-1, I'm not sure how much of it then is down to David Moyes, because I think a lot of fans were asking for a substitution like that, or a double substitution like that, and we saw it, and I was impressed by that, and obviously went on to win the game with the Benrahma assist.
Yeah, it's good to see Benny actually come on, and I thought the quality of the assist was different class for him, to be fair, just like that little chip ball. For me, and I say it every week, and I'm like a broken record at the moment, Benrahma has to start for me, just in terms of what he offers to the side, quality, delivery. Fornals, over the past couple of games, has been a bit poor as well. I think Moyes was right, decision to bring him in a little bit central and pack that midfield, and it did work to a degree, but yeah, Benrahma's got to start, lads. I know I like Fornals, but Benrahma seems to be in the ascendancy. He seems to be picking up assists, and I feel like he deserves his chance.
Yeah, we all said it last week, didn't we? That we thought he should be starting. From the 20 minutes that we saw from him against Fulham, he looked very good. And again, in that second half, it seemed like pretty much every time he got the ball, he seemed to do something with it. But the thing that impressed me the most about Benrahma was, obviously the assist was fantastic, but we did see him tracking back. We did see him working for the team. It's clear that he's not the best defensively. He's nowhere near as good defensively as someone like Fornals, but we did see him tracking back. We did see him putting the effort in, and that's something which Moyes has obviously instilled in him already. He's obviously probably had words with him and said, look, if you want to be in my team, you're going to have to work for the team. You're going to have to track back. So it was really pleasing to see that he was doing that. He was working for the team. And I really don't know what more he has to do to get a start, in all honesty.
Yeah. I think, Ollie's spot on there. It's actually just going back very quickly to the substitution. It didn't get picked up by a lot of people, I don't think. But on the broadcast, you can actually see a Villa player talking to Jack Grealish. And he seems to say Benrahma on. And you can see Grealish look towards the touchline, just kind of shake his head. And that is literally the leading sign that Benrahma is a dangerous player. I think the best indicator of a quality, a player's quality, is what their teammates and what other players think of them. And you can just tell there's something about Benrahma, and other teams fear him. And obviously there's a clear reason why. But yeah, Ollie's spot on. I think it was you, Ollie, last week that said as well, made a very good point. Fornals, when he came in, he wasn't a player that tracked back. And, that's something you can teach quite easily. And sure enough, in the 60th, the 70th minute, he was there on the edge of our box, kind of getting the ball and running it away. I think that is something you do have to give Haller a lot of credit for in the second half as well. He was trying to storm past defenders. I think a stark contrast to Jack Grealish. There's the incident on the touchline where he just goes past 3 Villa players. And, those crucial seconds to hold on to the ball and then to win a foul, I think that is something that David Moyes has brought to this side, and it's quality. It's absolutely quality.
Yeah, definitely. Like we'll touch on that there a little bit here. Like oh sorry, hang on. Yeah, look, he's improving week on week, and that's the most important thing for me. I think like the criticisms of maybe his work rate, maybe his ability to fit into this side. I feel like he's showing that adaptability from him, and I think someone mentioned it midweek. It could have been Creswell saying this is the best he's known the team spirit in the time he's been at West Ham. Do you think Moyes? I don't want to go too far because obviously I know we're fifth and inevitably we'll slide. But do you think he's building something with this team and this core? And if we can get a few key additions that we can push on a little bit further?
I don't see why not. I mean, he did this at Everton where, when he took over, there were, I think, in the relegation zone under Walter Smith. I think it was going back 2002 era kind of thing. So it was a long time ago. But, steadily bought players each transfer window that fitted his system, and they got in the Champions League, finished fourth, one season, and qualified regularly for Europe. So I don't see why not. I'm not sure if Moyes is quite at his Everton stage at the moment, but obviously he's doing better than what he was at Sunderland and Real Sociedad and even Man United to a certain extent. So I'm pretty confident with how we're going under him, but it's still early days and things can change. I mean, last few games we easily could have lost, so we need to obviously get a consistent run of style of play and performance in. But the signings he's brought in, Bowen, Safal, Souček, I've done really well, and if you can build on it maybe in January or next summer, then you just never know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. It's coming around to that time, lads, that David Moyes contract time that we seem to talk about. I think obviously now West Ham are starting to look at contracts. It is December for both the players and the manager. Just get your thoughts before we get back to the football on this. Obviously, I think Snodgrass and David Martin, their contracts could be allowed to run out. Declan Rice, obviously they'll be in talks for that. Where do you lie on some of these players? Mikel Antonio again wants another contract. Are there players in that sort of those couple I've mentioned that you think we have to keep? And are you happy to see the likes of David Martin and Robert Snodgrass leave?
I think that, I'm pretty happy to see Martin and Snodgrass leave. It's not that I don't like either of them. It's hard not to like Martin after some of the performances he put in last year. I think every West Ham fan was just really, really happy for him. I think it popped up on my Twitter a few days ago that it was a year since the Chelsea game, and I remember seeing his emotion at the end of the game, having finally made his debut, because I think, in all honesty, not even he thought it was going to happen. He was signed as a guy in his mid-30s who came in as a third-choice keeper, and he probably never thought he'd get a game. And he managed to, keep a clean sheet against Chelsea. But ultimately, I don't really think he's got much of a future at West Ham. He's clearly never going to be first choice. So happy to see his contract run down. And same with Snodgrass. Obviously didn't get off to the best start at West Ham. Wasn't really wanted by... It was Bilic who brought him in, I think, wasn't it? After Pyatt left.
Yeah.
And
Pyatt's replacement.
Didn't really feel wanted. I think I remember seeing in a Snodgrass interview where he said that Bilic didn't even know what position he played. Asked where he wanted to come on one time when he was coming off the bench. So obviously didn't get off to the best start, but last couple of years I think he's been a very good player for us, pretty consistent when he's played, popped up with some important goals, and his work rate is just fantastic. When you watch him, he always puts in the effort, which is something we can't say about every West Ham player we've seen in the last couple of years. But ultimately, I think we've got better players around him now. We've strengthened the team. So again, pretty happy to see him go. Rice is obviously a big one, goes without saying that you want him to sign a new contract. And I think for me, with Rice, I would much rather get pen to paper on a new deal for him than any other signings. I'd rather get Rice on a new deal and sign no one than Rice not sign a new contract, potentially lose him in January or at the end of the year, and bring in a couple of sort of average signings. Because I look at that first 11 on paper and I think it's pretty hard to strengthen. I don't really, obviously it's probably because we're doing well at the moment, but in that starting 11, I don't really see any positions at the moment that need strengthening desperately. We obviously needed a fullback over summer. We brought in Sufal. Masuaku slotted in perfectly into the left wing back spot. So I think if we're going to make any additions, it should be sort of squad players, youngsters maybe who have a lot of potential. But the main thing for me is just get Declan Rice to sign a new contract. However much money he wants, just give it to him.
I absolutely agree, man. Like, literally, he's indispensable. He's getting better week on week. I think our current run of form's helping us massively in terms of keeping him, because he's going to be in a side now that's progressing, that's looking up the table rather than down. And obviously, we were sitting here probably August, September going, January turns around, we'll be 14th, Chelsea will come in and it'll be an attractive move. And I'm not saying that playing Champions League isn't an attractive move, but he's captain at West Ham. If he gets the wage that he deserves, because for me, I think he's on 40k a week, allegedly. So you've got to be looking at tripling that. He deserved it, man. I think just what he does for the team, the leadership now that he's showing. And let's be honest, like, the longer we keep him at West Ham, the higher his value is going to become. He's only going to get better.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the only thing as well that the board really have to cling on to as well. Ollie was talking about how that would be better than any other signing. I think the kind of poor transfer window in terms of the amount that we spent, in the summer window was kind of made up for slightly by the fact we kept Declan Rice. I think there would have been a lot more outrage if we didn't have a player like Declan Rice to keep, and just, kind of go on and sign two players like that was pretty horrendous, especially Benrahma ending up on a loan deal, albeit with we have to buy him. But we've been so lucky to get him from Chelsea. Obviously, he's come up through our academy, and you won't find a better player around, I don't think, in his position. His leadership is unreal for a player that young. Someone going on a kind of back a bit and talking about Snodgrass and Martin. Those three seem like really, really good players to have in the dressing room. I guess Martin and Snodgrass, it's kind of time to move on, albeit they've had great memories with us. But someone like Declan Rice could be here for another 9 years, if we happen to sneak into Europe, and he would be the foundation of our squad. But it's going to be very tough to hang on to him, obviously. There's no doubt about that. But I do think the board are going to do whatever it takes to keep him here, because I'm not sure that the money that we'll receive for him, even if it's a ludicrous amount, will please fans, and I think they're quite worried about that at the moment.
Yeah, I'll touch on it because it has come out this week on social media that apparently West Ham don't have any real money to spend in January. It's not a shock, let's be honest.
What's new?
What's new? We talk about it every week, but we're talking now about the likes of Snodgrass and Martin going, and particularly Snodgrass, albeit he hasn't played this season. If someone did get injured, he would be that form of squad depth, particularly for the midfield positions. Antonio now injured for a month with only one fit recognised striker. It's absolutely imperative that the board find some money from somewhere in January, because if we are in this position still, or kicking around sort of 7th place, he needs reinforcements. And I feel like Moyes has done his job so far this season. Tactically, he's improving. I think the team are improving as a whole. But if we get to January, February and a major injury to Antonio, Rice, Souček, or Bonner, who's been unbelievable this season as well, it will start sliding down that table. So it is important for them to get another bank loan out and try and sort it out, because I don't want to see us slip. I really don't want to see us slip, particularly after the start we've made.
Yeah, it'd be such a shame if we're, pushing for Europe and then, GSB, pull their usual tactics and, as you say, Corey, fall down the league. It'd be such an opportunity wasted, especially in an open league like this. And the fact that we're playing well and showing some real consistency for the first time in probably since the last season at Upton Park. So, but, it's no surprise with the rumours that have come out this week. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to get used to it until they eventually move on.
Yeah, but the problem is, mate, the reason why I say this is if you've got that sellable asset in Declan Rice, and I do believe Chelsea will be looking at him still in January, you hope the board don't move on it. Purely if Moyes says, I need a backup striker, another midfielder, and other reinforcements, then maybe there's some sort of logic that they'll try and spin and use, which is the only issue. But for me, Declan, you get rid of Declan, one, I don't believe you can replace him like for like at all. I can't find a player out there that would come to West Ham. No. And secondly, he's just too important defensively and offensively now. So, yeah, it's a real conflict, mate.
Yeah, it's sort of to reiterate what I was saying before. Well, of course, I'll address Rice at first. Obviously, it goes without saying. If he's injured, it pretty much changes the complexion of our season. But then again, you could probably say that about most teams in the Premier League. You know, if their best player gets injured, then it changes things. Everyone was saying that about Liverpool at the start of the season when Van Dijk got injured. And yes, they haven't been the same formidable force they used to be, but you know, they're still doing well. But going back to what I was saying, I think we definitely need reinforcements. The board definitely do need to spend some money, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a marquee signing that's immediately going to get into the first 11. What we need is a good enough backup centre mid that won't be able to come in and do the same role that Rice does. He'll never be the same player that Rice is, but someone who can come in and do a job. And I think that we've had a lot of success of dipping into the Championship. I think we should be looking there and seeing there's going to be a lot of good central midfielders out there. We were linked with a few in summer. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think one was, is it Matt Grimes, I think, from Swansea?
Yeah, possibly.
And,
with him.
The one that I like the look of was, I think he's called Ryan Manning.
QPR.
Whether or not we could get him, I don't know, but he plays as a centre mid and can also play left back, which is another position where we could probably do with some more cover. And I think bringing in a player like that, who we could probably bring in for decent money, who could cover a number of positions, who would probably be happy to start as a backup, is the exact sort of player we should be looking to bring in.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm just laughing at the Slavian thing. You know it's going to happen, lads. You know it's going to happen. We can talk all we want. I mean, I've seen some of the comments. Armstrong from Blackburn, great shout. Someone also said Josh Cullen as well. We sold him for peanuts, and like we all complained about at the time, he was the perfect bit of squad depth. And you are bang on, Ollie. It's not about going getting a player that can replace someone else. It is about squad depth. That is clearly the weakness. Our first team, when all fit and firing, particularly when Mikel Antonio's firing, and you bring Benrahma into the side, are lethal, particularly on the counter and defensively as well. So I think one player we'll go for is Josh King. I've heard that we're still in for him. There'll be a cut price deal available. My main concern is, if they're saying we've got no money now, do we have to sell in order to buy? That is my only problem.
Yeah, and I totally agree with what Ollie said. We saw that in the Everton away game, like the cup game, with Snodgrass and Noble in central midfield. I mean, that's just, you know, they're too slow for modern day football. So having playing both of them, so that clearly shows we're lacking it in that area. If you know, Rice and Souček are not available, so I think get some fresh legs around, and I think it's a shame Cullen moved on. Or was moved on rather, but it would have been perfect for rotation. So if we can't get any first team quality players, which would be hard with no money apparently, then try and get some youngsters who have probably championship quality, have got the potential to be Prem stars in the future. I think that'd be a good shout.
Yeah, and you probably back Moyes. I mean, the players that I'm not sure how much of a hand he has in it, whether it is just Thomas Souček getting mates in from Slavia, but all the players that we have signed have proven to be good signings, do fit in with that side as well. So fingers crossed, lads. We'll leave it till January. I'm sure we'll have loads to talk about. Let's look forward to tonight. Manchester United, it's always a big game, lads. It's always a big game. And I was talking to Ollie beforehand. Manchester United are unbeaten away from home since January, but they've only won once in the last 5 games at the London Stadium. So where do you sit on that? Like, do you think West Ham can go one better, a 4th consecutive win, and possibly push up to 3rd in the Premier League?
No, definitely. Yeah, I think with the 3 wins in a row, albeit not convincing performances, but we're hard to beat now. And last 2 seasons we beat Man United at home, and we drew against them away earlier in the year, like last season. I think we certainly can beat them. Their defence isn't that great, and it's a shame Antonio's injured, because I think he would have had Maguire and Lindelof on toast, as he did at Old Trafford earlier in the year. So, but I think we've got enough strength and attack to beat them. But away from home, as you said, they've been pretty formidable. And Cavani is starting to come to the party. He scored 2 goals against Southampton last week. He looked really good. So as we mentioned earlier, they're so Jekyll and Hyde, Man United, but away from home they look decent. But I don't see why we can't, if we play as well as we can. I don't see why we can't beat them. Yeah,
Cavani, interesting signing, wasn't it, lads? I'm sure you felt the same, that back end of his career, coming off an injury, that he wasn't really going to feature much for Manchester United. But I've got to be honest, I'm massively impressed with you. Gives him something completely different up front.
Well, he's a natural number 9. I mean, Anthony Martial, I think he's a good player, but I've never been convinced he's a number 9. He just doesn't have the movement and finishing ability. that like Cavani has. Martial's more of a forward, sort of wide forward, really. So not a number 9. So we saw that against Southampton. Yeah, Cavani, 2 good finishes. He's a good player. I think he'll probably have more the Zlatan Ibrahimovic effect rather than Radamel Falcao at Man United. So
they'll be hoping, yeah.
But he's a good player. He's shown that throughout his career. So if he does, whether he starts or comes on, we need to be aware of his movement, especially at the near post.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. I just think that some of the signings that Man United have made, Donny van de Beek, that hasn't really played a lot, but every time his come-ins look great. Cavani as well, Fernandes. Those were the key players last week against Southampton that made the difference. And if you'd spoke to me maybe last season, I would have said West Ham can sit back, soak up and hit them on the counter and they wouldn't break us down because, like you say, Martial, Rashford, not natural number 9s. There's no movement in behind. Now I look at their forward line, I'm thinking, okay, maybe there is a way that they can get in behind. Brought Alex Telles in as well, who looks quite good from left back. So there are more options this season. Man United have shown a few more avenues to score goals, but I don't know. I feel West Ham could get their number. I think we can do one on Ole.
Yeah, well, I think defensively, as I said, they haven't improved from last season. They probably could have brought another centre back in. I think they'd be more consistent if they, especially a quick centre back, like Rio Ferdinand and Vidic was an amazing partnership. Ferdinand being quick and Vidic being the strong, dominating in the air, and they haven't really got that kind of player like Rio or anyone like that. So that's where, as I say, it's a shame Antonio, he would have, enjoyed playing against their back line. But even so, we've got, Bowen, and if Benrahma starts, we've got that little bit of pace up front. So, if we can tackle, Lindelof and Maguire, if they both start down the side of them, they're not the quickest on the turn. So, I think we can get at them defensively, but they've got good options up front in midfield, as we've said. So I think there'll be plenty of goals, I think.
Yeah, to echo what Bill was just saying there, I do think it's really disappointing that Antonio isn't fit for this game because I think he would have been perfect. I think his style of play with the formation that we've been playing this season would be perfect against this Manchester United side and the way that they play. And that is my main question mark. I am still confident going into the game, but I do worry about us as a counter-attacking team because Manchester United probably will have the majority of possession. And I do just worry that however well that Haller has played the last couple of games, however good he's been at holding up the ball, I do worry about that outlet we're going to have going forward. I know Bowen's got pace down the right, but if Fornals does start on the left, then I struggle to see how we're going to counter them that effectively, which is why I think, for me personally, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, and Haller is clearly going to start up front. But if it isn't quite going to plan, if we are chasing the game or things aren't going well, come 60, 70 minutes, I would quite like to see Bowen given a chance through the middle. I know he's not a natural striker and he's not the most incredible finisher in the world, but I think with his speed, his pressing game, we could potentially, then bring Benrahma on and have Benrahma, Fornals and Bowen as sort of a front 3. And I feel like that might give us more of an outlet, both counter-attacking. Not sure what you guys think on that. It is an interesting one, and it's not really tried and tested, but I do think that we have to have sort of a plan B there because I do worry about us on the counter-attack.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ollie. I think we saw it against City as well when Antonio got injured. Bowen played up there for a tiny bit. City were kind of working their way into the game. By that stage, it was like, 65th minute. They were trying to grab a winner there. But I genuinely do think we really have to press in the first 45 minutes and bring that game to Manchester United. We need Ole on the touchline thinking, shit, like I could lose my job here, because we saw it against Leicester, albeit we were 3-0 up. We got lucky there with the Harvey Barnes goal right at the end. The Liverpool game with the Jota goal, and then the Watkins goal, which was offside, obviously, last week. There is a thing, if we do get pushed enough and if they drive at us enough, I think, it's the 80th minute, the 90th minute. That's the really dangerous thing, especially with the options that they've got on the bench as well. They're not sure if they're going to start Martial or Rashford, or, they've got that pace. And I think when our defenders start to get tired, that's when we might see the breaks. And I think it'll be really hard to come back from, if we concede an early goal. But if we do score, then they've got these lapse in judgment at the back half the time. Obviously, the Demba goal in the Champions League was outrageous. I know what we're talking about with the pace up top, but the reality is you don't need that much pace if they're gonna concede goals like that. Demba is not the fastest striker, and I think Haller would beat him in a sprint. But it's one of those games I think where we really, really have to put them under the cosh. I think that. Yeah, they're a good team based on quality of players individually, but I think if we do test them, obviously I say this now, they obviously came back from two goals down last week, but there's something about them, I think, and we can really test them with Benrahma. I think Benrahma has to start this game. We just have to push them and test them and keep going. I think if we sit back and let them have 75% possession, they might not break us down in the first 60 minutes, but they'll break us down in the next 30. And so we really have to go and give it our all.
I don't know, man. I disagree. Like, this is a bit right. So I think, right, if we sit back on Man, and I agree, I think we've seen previously with Man City, Liverpool, they do get a goal near the end because it's impossible to play in a defensive shape for 90 minutes. It really is. But United's press is at times reckless. Like, they'll throw their fullbacks up, they'll push their two holding midfielders up. You just look at Lindelof and Maguire. I don't think Haller needs to travel with the ball in this game at all, to be fair. I think he can find a pocket of space deep and then look for Bowen and Benrahma getting on beyond. But that has to be the plan. I agree that Antonio, when he plays, gives us something different. For raw pace and power, of course, he'll take on Lindelof and Maguire. But I don't know. The Benrahma thing as well, 4 nails down that left. I don't want to see 4 nails against Wan-Bissaka for me, honestly. I think that's an absolute mismatch. He's not going to beat it for pace. He's not going to beat it for strength. He'll be like playing with 2 men. So up front, I just think we can sit back on United. And I think we can get goals in this game. I think it's a game we can afford to be defensive because I think United are so exploited at the back. Particularly with those 2 centre-backs. You saw it against PSG as well. So, we'll see.
I think I guess what I meant to say there is if we grab an early goal, I think that is the best chance then we will have on the counter-attack. I think if it's 0-0, I'm not sure United will press us that much until, I think they realise that we're a quality side. We're doing really well in the league at the moment. And I think they're under no illusion that if they don't treat this game right, they will get done. They'll get done. They could lose this game, 3-0 or whatever. But so I think if we get that early goal, that's when you might start to see the lapse in judgment. And that's when you might just get to see the quick counter. Obviously, I'm not sure they'll be happy with a point. I don't think any Manchester United side go into games just hoping for a point. But I do think that if it's 0-0 at halftime, they'll only come out and start to really try and nick a result in the dying stages of the game. I think that's one of the criticisms as well of Ole. Half the time he just sits back and he's happy with draws in some games, and that's not the way that Manchester United want to play. Whereas I think if we do go 1-0 up in the first half, Villa, obviously, we went 1-0 up against them and they got the goal through Grealish. And it was a quality goal, but I think Manchester United, they will start to fear what will happen. If they lose this game, they've got an extremely tough run of fixtures. They've got City in the Prem next. They almost need a result here. And I think if we do get that early goal, they'll really try and get a goal back quickly. Knowing that we play 5 at the back as well, and that's when we can get them. I do think if it's 0-0, they'll realise that they could probably nick a goal in the dying stages because there are lapses in judgment. If you've got 5 defenders playing 90 minutes, obviously, and that's why Liverpool are so good in the dying stages. That's why Sir Alex was so good because they do have a very good squad. They've got those options, and they probably do realise that, come the late stages, if it's 0-0, they can go and nick a goal.
Yeah, that is the worry. It's always the worry with West Ham, isn't it? When you play defensive for so long that inevitably something will happen. I think we've got away with it in recent weeks. I think Fulham had a couple of chances against the Sheffield United McBurney. I thought that was in as well. It does happen, and it always seems to happen down kind of that right-hand side where Balbuena is. And I'm not digging him out because I think he's done better this season. But certainly with pace and Cavani coming off to that left-hand side we saw against Southampton, it does worry me that even if Cavani doesn't start and they bring him on, that they're going to cause us some problems.
Something which I think could be potentially massive is, in general, let's just start with that fact that Manchester United's team selection is going to be a massive one, because it's really, really hard to say what it's going to be, because they've got a massive, massive game next week against Leipzig. They've come off the back of this game against PSG. They don't have that much squad depth realistically. Rashford might be out injured, so it's going to be interesting to see what starting 11 they actually go with. I think that whether or not Rashford plays is absolutely massive, because if he does play, I do worry about someone like Soufal being caught out, because even though I've been really impressed with him this season, it's clear that he doesn't have that much pace in the world. So come the end of the game, like Angus was saying, if Manchester United fancy that they can nick a winner, I do worry about someone like Rashford still being on the pitch. So Manchester United's team selection, I think, is absolutely massive. If Rashford plays, I think it could change the entire complexion of the game. So
yeah, I don't want to. I've dug out Manchester United enough, but what I will say with them is, as a counter-attacking side, they're one of the best in the league. Like when they're on it, they are the pace they break with. I think against Newcastle, constant one touch, two touches. Rashford as well looks better as a wide player on the counter. I think he struggles when he has to try and play down the middle and break people down. So I think it would suit us, particularly if you've got Rice and Soucek just sitting there. But like I say, if West Ham, for whatever reason, and Moyes has done it in recent weeks, press the opposition, you unfortunately back someone like Rashford to get him behind and cause us some issues if he's fit. If not, Martial can do a similar job in terms of his pace as well, albeit not a natural number 9. So it'll be interesting, lads. United are still a tough side, and Bruno Fernandes is key to them. I think it would depend. It depends on what Ole wants to do. If he wants to rest key players for Leipzig, or whether he has to go for it in this game.
Yeah, definitely. And I think no matter what our formation is, a couple of guys in the comments, Kieran and Steve said, we need to give support to Haller, and no matter who it's Fornells or Bowen or Benrahma, whoever it is, need to support him. And because we saw that with United start of the season, Crystal Palace, they were done with Jordan Ayew and Sahar, and against Tottenham 6-1, Son, Kane, getting him behind constantly. So. When we do attack, we need to attack in numbers, attack with pace, because as we've all mentioned, their defence are there to be got at. So, but when we do attack, obviously got to be aware of where our defensive line is, because obviously they've got pace on the break. Yeah,
and they got options off the bench as well. Greenwood, for me, I know he's a bit out of form, but he's actually probably one of their better strikers. I'm surprised Ole never plays him as a number 9, but it is what it is. They're still a good side. I still think they can hurt us, but I don't know. I just fancy us to get a result. I feel like we're in good form, and we can really trouble them tonight, whenever. Listen, we've got a tough run of fixtures coming up, lads. We really do. Obviously, December is a really, really busy month. We've got Leeds Friday night next week, Palace, Chelsea. What are your thoughts going into those fixtures? Do you see that West Ham can sort of keep our form up, or do you think there's any potential banana skins there?
It's so unpredictable. This season's ridiculous. The only season I can compare this to in recent history is the last season at Upton Park. It's like Leeds, for example, they've won some games, they've been thrashed in some games. Here's a prime example. Crystal Palace beat Leeds what was it, 4-1? 4-1, yeah. And then Crystal Palace go on to lose to Newcastle 2-0. And Chelsea, Chelsea are a quality side. They've taken a couple of games to warm up this season. I think that'll be a really tough fixture. But the other ones are just so hard to call. I think if you can't list a top 10 for the end of the season. You can't predict the top 10 because there's just all those teams, from 5th down to 16th, 15th. It's just all there and about, and it's crazy.
Yeah, no, man, it's topsy-turvy, particularly with Leeds. Leeds have been up and down as well. Obviously, they lost Calvin Phillips. Yeah. Comes back into the side, and obviously they get a draw against Arsenal and a win against Everton. Like, shows you how important certain players are. So, no, it's gonna be tough. Chelsea's the one for me, lads. If I'm honest, I think Chelsea will be a little bit tougher than Manchester United and Leeds.
Yeah, I
Leeds
think
is going to be. You go, Lee. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you're so right, Angus, in the sense that this season has just been the most unpredictable season that we've had, I think, since Leicester won it a few years ago. And we've basically seen every team beating each other. The only really games you look at and think that's a must win, we really should definitely be winning that, are Fulham, Sheffield United, and probably Burnley at the moment. And we did the job against Fulham and Sheffield United. It was scrappy, but we got it done. But like you're saying, you look at that run of fixtures, and I think at the start of the season, you probably would have seen this sort of period, take out Manchester United and Chelsea, but this sort of period, other than that, as sort of games which on paper we're probably the stronger team for. But then you look at a team like Leeds, and in all honesty, I'm more nervous for the Leeds game next week than I am for the United game tonight. We've seen, yes, they're a mixed bag. Yes, they got battered by Palace, but then I've watched them in some games this season. I think it was against Villa, and they absolutely destroyed Villa. It could have been 6 or 7-0. So you've just sort of, it's a massive cliche this, but you've almost got to take every game as it comes. We're lucky that we're on a good run of form at the moment. I feel confident in the squad that we've got. But going back to what you're saying, Corey, I think the toughest game we've got coming up across the next couple of months is that Chelsea game. Yes, we beat them. I think we beat them home and away last season, didn't we?
Of course we did.
They're a completely different outlet this season. And start of the season, they didn't look that convincing. But I think Lampard has found the way that he wants to play now. He's found a formation that he's happy with. I was pretty unconvinced with Werner on the wing to start with, but he seems like he's made that position his own. And when I watch them, I see players like Werner, like Ziyech, like even Mason Mount now, and it looks like they're creating stuff every single game. Like I watch Werner, and it seems like whichever defence he comes up against, he's always going to get at least one chance. Whether or not he's going to take it is
yeah, probably Scott.
But he seems like the sort of player where it's going to be impossible to keep him out of the game.
Yeah, I'd love to slate Frank Lampard. I really, really would. Unfortunately, he seems to have, even after the early season where defensively he had some problems, he seems to have sussed it out a little bit with that Chelsea side, and they are kind of in the ascendancy. I think it's a massive marker for them this weekend against Leeds. If they win that game, say a 2-0 or quite convincingly keep a clean sheet, then maybe we can say he's turned a corner. But like you were saying, Ollie, like you sometimes look at these fixtures thinking, oh look, easy run of fixtures, that'll be easy, nice. But you've got Brighton and Southampton, you know, Boxing. I think it's just after Boxing Day and the 29th or 30th. For me, those are tough games. Brighton are a really good side. They've been unlucky this season.
Yeah, and we've not beaten them since they got promoted.
Really? That's Glenn Murray. That's blame Glenn Murray, mate.
Yeah, he's not there now, is he? So, but no, I don't see why we can't go into even the Chelsea game without any fear. I mean, we proved that in the tough fixtures we had at the start of the season, and they feared me more than the ones coming up. So, and the way we've played and held our own and been difficult to beat. You know, I'm not saying we'll win all of them, but you know, I don't see why we can't go in there without you know, being confident and even just nick a few draws and that. So yeah, every game, you know, every game's tough in this league, really. So yeah, teams should be fearing us more than the way we're playing at the moment.
I think they're slowly clocking West Ham, because West Ham kind of come up like no one's really paying too much attention, but just quietly and consistently. I think that's the one thing about West Ham this season is consistency. Like that's something as West Ham fans we've been sitting there for years going, just a constant run of like form in games that we should win. And we've done it against, you know, Sheffield United, Fulham. We got a result against Villa that we didn't deserve. In the past, West Ham are losing those types of games and getting very little points for them. So do you think West Ham, like maybe we've turned a bit of a corner as a club on the football pitch? Less so off, but on the football pitch at least.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, even like the end of last season, we were showing a bit of consistency, and that's what sort of got us out of trouble. And this season, apart from the Newcastle, the opening game, you know, our performances have been steady. Even the last 3 games, yeah, okay, we've not been convincing, but still had chances and still won those games. And you know, we haven't capitulated when in seasons gone by we would have made it easy for those teams and they would have won. So yeah, it's nice to you know, have 11 players on the pitch that are working hard, playing for the manager, playing for the fans, even though we're not there. And you know, as I say, just making it hard for the opposition, which, you know, for too long we've been this flaky West Ham side. You know, you score a couple of goals against them and then they'll just fold like anything. But yeah, we're more harder to break down, and you know, we're carrying that threat going forward as well. So yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, West Ham for Europe.
Yeah.
I think the winning ugly aspect of things has been the most pleasing thing for me, because if I was going to look at a team where I'd want West Ham to get to, in the next couple of years and a place or a team which I sort of strive to be like, I'd look at a team like Wolves and the way they've come on and the way they've progressed in the last few years. And one of the things we've seen from Wolves is at times they obviously play some outstanding football, but they grind out so many games 1-0. There was a stat last season where I think they won the most games. They just won a stupid number of games by 1 goal just because they had a solid defence, managed to stay in games and nicked results. And that's something which we are starting to see from West Ham. At the start of the season, we saw some great performances against the likes of Wolves, against Leicester. And in recent weeks, we haven't played anywhere near as well, but we're still getting the results. And I think that is a sign that we've turned a corner. I just wanted to make one point, which just goes back to sort of this busy run and tough run of fixtures, as you were saying, Corey. And I think this is going to be the real test of Moyes and his squad management, because this is the sort of period every single year where every team in the Premier League is going to pick up injuries. There's going to be so much football being played across the next few weeks. And I think it's naive to think that we can go into each of these games and play the exact same starting 11. There's going to be quick turnarounds. There's going to be injuries. And I think Moyes is going to have to look at the teams we're playing, how they're going to set up, and he's going to have to adapt and not necessarily pick the same team every single game just because we've got a result. He's going to have to be willing to make these changes. We've got a good squad now. We've got probably better squad depth this season than I've seen for many years, because we did bring in a few good faces in the summer. So I think he's really going to have to use that squad depth. He's going to have to use the entire squad. He's going to have to rotate a lot more than we've seen. I'm happy at the moment with how things are going. Yeah, when there's a week between games, it's okay to pick the team which has won you the last game. But throughout this busy Christmas period, I think we're going to have to rotate the squad a lot more, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he does things.
Massive test, isn't it? Massive test for Moyes. And I think sometimes in the past we've criticised him maybe for playing the same team consistently, not making subs, and the team burn out. And it's obvious that the players are knackered and they can't perform in the same way. Again, possibly, and I don't like it when Moyes does this, but sometimes he tends to pick fixtures that he thinks he can win and rest players for the ones he can't. And I think this season we've gone up against the big teams, we've shown ourselves, but I couldn't think of anything more disappointing if we went against Chelsea, rotated the squad to go and try and get a result against a Southampton or a Brighton. I just think use the squad management. It's the subs for me. If he uses the subs right in the games, 60th minute, we can get a bit of freshness in there and we can look after them. But you're right. It seems at the moment it's constant test for Moyes, but he's slowly overcoming them. So again, fingers crossed he can do it this time.
Yeah. Going back very quickly to their consistency, can I just say, I think a lot of credit has to be given to both Thomas Souček and Vladimir Coufal. I think they're two signings, and you couldn't get two signings more close to what you see as what you get. You literally, they just deliver on what is asked of them, nothing less, nothing more. I genuinely think you couldn't find two more consistent footballers almost in world football. They lead quiet lives. They're not too outlandish. They're not, making stupid mistakes. They're just playing it easy. And I think a lot has to be said for that. Obviously Ryan Fredericks I genuinely think he's a great player. And I think almost in a game like this, he could deal with Rashford. He pocketed Rashford last time we played United. But just having those two players there, 2 out of the 11 that are just there all the time, they deliver of what's asked of them. And they're so solid. And I think that led to kind of the fixed formation that we've got. And I think that has led to the fixed results. Yeah,
inspired signings, really. Thanks, Thomas Souček, and bringing over Soufal, because I'm not sure none of us had heard him. But he's coming. Yeah. That's the thing. He's come in and he's adapted to the Premier League straight away. How many players can you say that about? Both of them. And like you say, Angus, they've both been consistent as well, which has helped us massively.
Yeah, I mean, they just do the simple things simply. They are two incredibly solid players. We didn't pay much for them. We've already had incredible return on the investment. They've got the experience, And naturally, I think those positions, especially the holding role, it's easier to adapt in the Premier League. Not so sure about right back, but they've just both slotted in perfectly. They've obviously got that connection. They've played with each other for a long time. They play with each other in the national team, and I think they are the foundation of our consistency.
I think it's nice as well that West Ham seemingly have a good relationship with Slavia Prague now. And having a good relationship with other clubs is not something which comes naturally to West Ham. The majority,
especially for our owners, God.
Yeah, so the majority of clubs seem to hate us, but it seems like we've got quite a good relationship with them. And even though they're a pretty strong team themselves, they're almost becoming, in some ways, a bit of a feeder club to us because we've got Soucek, we've got Soufal from them now, and I'm starting to see us linked with a number of their players. I think it was a couple of weeks ago I read an article, I think it was from Henry actually, and we're linked with their goalkeeper, Collar or something, as a backup keeper who's
Really?
I think keeps a clean sheet in every one, he's kept a clean sheet for them in over 50% of his games. Seems a solid keeper, and I mean I'm quite pleased with it. The way it's going, the recruitment so far from there has been good. They're obviously producing good players, good, strong, physical players who can adapt to the Premier League pretty quickly. And it'd be good to see this recruitment from there continue, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is as well, I know it seems like Slavia Prague are a smallish club in the grand scheme of things. They do play Champions League, that Soucek and Soufal, they both play for the national side as well. So it is clever recruitment. I'm not sure how much Golden Sullivan have much to do with it, but in any case, we're just glad they're here. I'm going to come to you lads for your score prediction before we leave. I'm going to come to Ollie first. Ollie, score prediction for tonight.
I'm going to go with 3-1 West Ham.
Oh, brave man.
Yeah, I think there's going to be goals in it. I've obviously got to back West Ham. I think that we could start the game strong, find ourselves 2 goals up, then we'll get the inevitable Manchester United wave of pressure coming onto us. They might nick one back, and then as they desperately search for that equaliser, we'll be able to pick up a third on the counter. So that's my optimistic prediction anyway.
I love it, mate. Angus, what are you saying?
2-1 West Ham, I think. Yeah, I think we'll win 2-1. I think we will get an early goal. I think that will lead to the second as well, similar to what Ollie said. I do think United will nick one back in the second half, and I think we'll just try and run down the clock, which we've become better at, to be fair. So, yeah.
Bill, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it might be similar to when we played Chelsea at home sort of last season, earlier this year. So it might be West Ham 3-2, I reckon.
Oh, these are exciting scorelines. Yeah, I'm going to be slightly boring with Angus and go 2-1. I think we'll score in this game, but I think United at some point will score. I just think that's going to happen. Like we said, we switch off a little bit in those last 10. And they've got some fantastic attacking players. So, right, thank you everyone for watching. All 57 of you, make sure you smash a like on the video, and if you're new, subscribe to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. I'll be back this evening with Charles and Dennis. They've left from their duties, lads. It's a bit disappointing, but nonetheless, they'll be here.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. You can't rely on them. Start from 5 o'clock, build up, all the lineups, score predictions, etc. We'll be there. Join us on the West Ham Way YouTube channel. And until next week, take care.